Number 10. Mr. Sinister. I know, technically Mr. Sinister is a mutate, but he is a part of the New Mutant Nation of Krakoa and he is alpha level, and he's cool, so I wanted to show him some love by including him here. Nathaniel Essex has an insane list of powers and is a very powerful telepath. His mutant abilities have been improved upon over the years as he has continued to experiment on and improve his own DNA, but originally he was turned mutate by Apocalypse, who partnered up with Nathaniel in the 19th century. After traumatizing his wife when she discovered he'd been experimenting on their dead son, which ultimately caused her to lose their child, whom she was carrying at the time, and then die, he adopted the name Mr. Sinister and teamed up with Apocalypse, in response to the fact that his wife labeled him as sinister and refused to forgive him upon her deathbed. Sad. But also, did he deserve it? I don't know. I feel like maybe he did. Number 9. Polaris. Polaris is also known as Lorna Dane, the daughter of Magneto. I mean, just look at that headpiece. It screams Magneto's daughter, right? Or at least it used to, back when Scarlet Witch was also considered his daughter and also sported it. But anyways, enough of my mourning. Polaris likely has the potential to go beyond alpha level. She almost managed to launch an island into space using her powers. She also has a secondary mutation, so beyond the magnetic powers that she received from her dad, which manifested at a young age and actually resulted in her tearing up a plane apart, she also has the ability to absorb energy. Polaris is pretty cool. She pretty OP. Number 8. Cyclops. While his on and off again semi-eternal love Jean Grey is known as being Omega level, Cyclops himself is considered Alpha class. Apocalypse classified him as such in X-Men Volume 2 issue 97. Scott is likely one of the most powerful mutants when it comes to the concussive blast that he attacks with coming from his eyeballs. However, he still requires his visor to help keep the beams as precise as he would like. His exceptional genes seem to be part of the reason he is so powerful and part of the reason he is often the one plucked to fight important battles. And apparently why Mr. Sinister is obsessed with him. Number 7. Gambit. Gambit is an insanely underrated mutant when it comes to his powers. Most people just think of him as the guy that throws cards, but he's so much more than that. Remy can kinetically charge any item with explosive energy. This allows him to throw cards that will explode on impact, but he can also charge items to explode on a timer. Beyond that, he also appears to have superhuman reflexes, dexterity, and accuracy. The alternate Gambit of Earth 9921, known as New Sun in that reality, has even shown us Remy's potential when it comes to his power levels. Remy could even exceed his current alpha status and become Omega level. However, the Gambit of Earth 616 has shown that he is careful when it comes to his powers and potentially losing control of them, which is likely why he has remained at alpha level. And probably will for the foreseeable future. Number 6. Sebastian Shaw. Sebastian Shaw is another alpha level mutant who has the potential to enter the Omega scale. Sebastian's abilities allow him to absorb kinetic energy and recycle it to increase his own strength, speed, or endurance. Similar to another alpha level mutant, Bishop. This has made Sebastian a formidable foe in battle, which was very useful back when he was a villain and is maybe now even more useful now that he is working alongside his fellow mutants in the new Dawn of X relaunch. Because he can continue to absorb and convert energy, becoming more and more powerful in battle with no foreseeable cap, it is possible that this may one day lead him to be able to claim Omega level status. Technically, his ability to convert and utilize any kinetic energy around him is a secondary mutation, whereas his first mutant ability was simply to absorb energy. Number 5. Namor. Not only is the Submariner powerful in regards to the kingdom that he rules, but he is also known for being a very powerful mutant. Powerful and proud. He is so revered for his position and power that he was actually invited personally by Charles Xavier to join his family of fellow mutants in Krakoa in House of X, but Namor actually refused. He didn't see the mutants or Xavier as being self-aware enough to have earned him joining their cause. Namor is considered to also be highly unique in the mutant world due to his half Atlantean and half human heritage, which resulted in him being born a mutant with an insane power set. The most mutant of his abilities though is likely his flight ability, which can't be explained by either side of his heritage. His other powers usually involve his underwater environment, but they also include enhanced speed, strength, and endurance. And while he may not look as tough as some of the other giant muscle-bound mutants, he can certainly hold his own in a fight. This is a guy who has survived going toe-to-toe with the Hulk after all. He's even knocked the Hulk unconscious. I feel like more than once, so wow. Number 4. Rogue. Despite being considered one of the most powerful and being considered one of the most well-known mutants in comics, Rogue was actually once known as being not even alpha but beta level. What changed for her was she gained control of her powers. Originally, Rogue was known as someone with an astounding level of power, but she couldn't really control it, and control is a big part of being considered alpha level. Because not being able to touch people is kind of a limitation when it comes to your life and, your powers. And Rogue's fear of touching people sometimes got in the way of, her living her life. Without control, your power can basically be used against you as opposed to being used by you to empower you, so. But she's alpha level now, so wee! Number 3. Tempus. Tempus definitely has the potential to become an Omega level mutant because she is still so new and young, and yet is already Alpha level. Eva Bell in Dawn of X is known as being a member of the Five. The Five are a group of mutants whose powers work together to help resurrect any fallen mutant. So any mutant that dies can now be brought back to life, making Eva one of the most celebrated and revered mutants on Krakoa. In fact, most of the other members of the Five are Omega level, only Tempus and Gold Balls are not. And with more time and practice, it's possible there will be nothing getting in the way of utilizing the full potential of her powers. Right now, the only thing in her way is her own inexperience. Eva can control time using temporal spheres. She can manipulate time within bubbles and even send herself or others back or forward in time as a result. Number 2. Professor Xavier. Known as being one of the most powerful telepaths in the world and the leader of the X-Men, it is surprising that Charles is not an Omega level mutant. But no worries, he is certainly at least Alpha level. He has the ability to access the minds of everyone on the planet, and he's managed to hold his own in a fight against the Dark Phoenix, even momentarily incapacitating her. Number 1. Apocalypse. This is one I personally found shocking too. I mean, I definitely thought that Apocalypse was an Omega level. I think that he maybe should be, but for now, he's currently stuck on Alpha level apparently. The potential at least feels like it should be there for him to reach Omega level, at least. However, when it comes to Alpha level or Alpha class, did you know that N. Sabinur actually coined the term? Sort of. He used it in the Age of Apocalypse story out of the 90s to refer to mutants who he deemed the most powerful on planet Earth. Those mutants were called Alpha class and included Apocalypse himself. Alpha would be considered the highest power level until the term Omega came around, or more specifically until the term Omega was properly defined as being more powerful than Alpha level. Because I believe the term Omega actually came out in the 80s, so. Number 10. Joey and Galen Bailey. Joey and Galen Bailey are mutants who appeared in X-Men issue number 30. The spelling on Galen's name has changed over the years, but I decided to go with the first appearance of her name for this list. We don't know what their two powers were, but what we do know is that a Sentinel declared them Epsilon Beta class. We also know that they are kids of Jean's older sister Sarah. The two of them are mostly just very small cameo characters. Still, it's nice to acknowledge the power of the Grey Line, especially since it is not often talked about since the death of almost the entire Grey family at the hands of the Shi'ar. Rest in peace, pretty much everybody in the Grey family. Everybody died. They were like, look at all these people, and they were like, dead. Number 9. Brian Reinhardt. You might start to notice a pattern when it comes to beta levels and their power sets on this list. Reinhardt is part of that pattern. Agent Brian Reinhardt appeared in the series Sentinel from the early 2000s. We find out that he is both an agent of the Commissions on Superhuman Activities, aka the CSA, and a mutant in the series. He is tracking down a Sentinel. When the two end up in a fight, he defeats the Sentinel but also appears to end up dead in the process. He can absorb energy and use it for energy blasts and shielding, though apparently this wasn't enough to protect him. It almost appears in the fight as though exhausting himself through using his powers was what led to his demise. Probably why he's beta level. Number 8. Pixie. Pixie is Mastermind's daughter. She is half fairy, half human, and all mutant. As such, her powers reflect her background. She has insectoid wings and an affinity for magic. Her wings can produce hallucinogenic dust, which makes people both hallucinate things both visually and audibly. Unlike her father though, Megan Gwyn's illusionary powers have limits. She has been shown to have seemingly no control over what her victims see, meaning that unlike her father, she is not quite as powerful or skilled when it comes to illusion creation. Yet, anyways. Number 7. Mastermind. Though, to be fair, even Jason Wingard had his own limits when it came to his powers. Mastermind is known as a powerful manipulator. He can create illusions and alter memories. However, if someone discovers that they are being manipulated by him, the illusion will no longer continue to work and will eventually dissolve. This weakness also applies to those whose memories he has managed to tamper with. Oddly enough, Mastermind has also declared that certain minds are easier for him to tamper with than others, and implied that certain minds are therefore too strong to be affected by his abilities. Or too weak? There's a continuity error with his powers in that regard. Jason has stated before that his memory altering powers both work best on those with a complex mind and those with a simple mind, implying that the opposite is more problematic. Yet he said this about both types of minds. So both opposites aren't good, but they are? Doesn't make sense. Number 6. Strong Guy. Strong Guy was first introduced in the 80s. He is one of those mutants who can absorb and repurpose kinetic energy. Are you seeing a pattern yet? This ends up making him super strong and durable and gives him superior endurance. However, his powers come with a cap. If he absorbs too much energy, it stresses his heart. Guido Carosella has already had a heart attack before as a result of overusing his powers, making his heart even weaker than it was originally. He also needs to dispel all absorbed energy from his body quickly, as the longer he holds on to it, the greater risk it opposes to his health. So he's really only good for short bursts of power. So you could say with Strong Guy, with great power can come potential heart failure. Not as good as Spider-Man saying. Number 5. Surge. Surge is a relatively new mutant, first appearing in New Mutants, volume number 2 in 2004. Her mutant powers allow her to control all types of electricity. You might think that this doesn't sound that powerful. What if she's in a room with no power outlets or not in a city with power? But this extends beyond what we first think of when we think of electricity. It's not just weather and outlets that Noriko Hashida can use to power up. It's also staticky electricity, which is often all around us. The problem with Surge's electricity absorption is that she can't control it, so she wears gauntlets made by Forge to help her control the energy of both the input and the output of electricity that she conducts. This lack of control goes even beyond Cyclops' use of the visor to control his concussive blasts, as without her gauntlets, Surge can't even control the energy she is absorbing and has to dispel it, making her like an uncontrollable live wild electric wire. So without her gauntlets, she's just like all over the place. Number 4. NORTHSTAR and AURORA. While these two are now more independent of one another, these two Canadian mutants from Quebec originally needed one another to be their most powerful. And for our purposes, we're going to more focus on this part of their power. Although now their powers can still work without one another, still being together does increase their power levels and being apart does diminish it. Oh yeah, and they're also both half elf as well, pretty cool. They both share the power of photokinesis and can use the light they produce to do various things. Aurora, Jean-Marie, can use the light to shock, blast, and soothe, while NORTHSTAR, Jean-Paul, primarily uses the light to blast. Even if they don't need to hold hands anymore to make their powers even more radiant, they definitely still get a boost from being in close proximity and lose said boost when being apart. Also, both siblings have been members of Alpha Flight, for all of you Alpha Flight fans out there. Yay, I mentioned an Alpha Flight thing. We're from Canada, so it's relevant. I feel like people always want us to mention Alpha Flight because we're so Canadian, and I'm just like, we get it, they're Canadian, we're Canadian, we get it. Number 3. Colossus. While Colossus might seem super powerful, and granted he is, even his metallic form has limits. The thing about Piotr Rasputin is that he is made of steel, so he is weakened by vibranium and adamantium. Any metal more powerful than steel can be used successfully against him, making him not as strong as he looks. Even Omega Red's carbonadium tentacles have bested him in a fight. Granted, Colossus is still a tough nut to crack in battle, but if you put him up against the right enemy, they'll definitely be able to put a dent in his armored skin. Number 2. Angel. So I really don't like to pick on Angel because he is one of the original X-Men, and for what mutant powers he was given, he is pretty powerful. Like seriously, I would really love him to be an Omega level, but the reason he makes our beta list is because his only real mutant ability is flight, and his power depends on his wings. If he loses his wings, he loses his powers. While he can pass for a normal human, he also literally becomes one essentially without his wings. Now if his wings were more durable, this wouldn't be an issue, but unless we were talking about his techno wings, they can't be considered that durable, and Angel has both had them injured and lost them before, meaning there are times that he wasn't even able to fly. And that's kinda his whole thing, so still, we give him a number 2 spot because respect. And he is still pretty powerful and strong, but when all you got is wings, it's a rough life. Number 1. Wolverine. Although I personally think Wolverine deserves at least alpha status, there are many people that consider him beta level, and I'll explain why. These mutant levels are more about mutant abilities than the full character behind them. Now when it comes to Wolverine's mutant abilities, his bone claws and his healing factor, he doesn't have as much control over these as he could, which is what makes him beta. In regards to his claws, Wolverine also has an animalistic nature that comes along with his powers, which causes him to make rash decisions in dire situations and react on instinct as opposed to really thinking things through. His healing factor also often messes with his mind and his memories, helping him to forget painful ones, but also at times making him question his part in the tragic events that seem to follow and surround him all the time, and making him question his own self, who he is, and why he's done certain things will often become a mystery to him. So yeah, it's like, get rid of those painful memories, but also now I have some memory loss. Kind of not a good thing all the time.
Number 10. Tag. We all know of the game tag. You know, tag, you're it, and then everyone just runs away. Well, my friends, welcome to Brian Cruz's life. He has the ability that allows him to make people either run away or towards a specific person or object whenever he touches them. In the comics, whenever he would use his power, he would often yell out, "Tag, you're it!" I know, it's a little on the nose, but hey, I mean the guy seems just to embrace it, and you know, you can't judge him for that. Number 9. Bailey Hoskins. Oh, Bailey. Poor Bailey. You see, Bailey is a mutant that joined the X-Men. Bailey has the ability to detonate his entire body like a bomb, which, I mean, would really come in handy in a fight against other superpowered individuals. Now you're probably saying, David, if he's so powerful, why is he not a higher classification? Well, because he can only use his powers once. Yep, just once. See, he found out he happened to have this ability because of the X-Men. Technically, he could have gone through his whole life without knowing, and you would have never been able to tell he was a mutant, but he is, and he just can't use it or he'll die. So if one day he decides to use his powers, they would actually be really effective, and knowing that he could use it at any moment could be terrifying to an enemy. It's just the one-off that limits him so very much. Number 8. Layla Miller. Layla Miller is a mutant with power to bring back people from the dead. Now hold on, it's not exactly what you think. Firstly, it has to be within minutes of someone dying. Secondly, if she does bring someone back, they don't have their memories or their souls. So there's kind of like a mindless being in a way. Which, hey, I mean, could be useful sometimes, but I feel like it would be helpful if you were more of a villain. You know, you could make an army of them, make them go after people, but unfortunately, Layla isn't. Number 7. CYPHER. Douglas Ramsey, aka CYPHER, is a mutant with the ability to understand all languages, even ones from other planets. He can automatically pick up and understand it, even if it's the very first time he's ever even heard it. Now, that is a very useful ability to have. It would really come in handy, but it's not like, you know, it would necessarily help him in a physical battle. And you can also kind of see that he could have gone through his whole life not even knowing he was a mutant. Although, he did know, and his power did come in handy a few times in the comics. Number 6. CALLISTO. CALLISTO is a mutant with very enhanced senses. So her sense of smell, touch, taste, hearing, balance, and sight are all enhanced, you know, well beyond that of an average human. And honestly, it's a really cool kind of power to have, but at the same time it doesn't help a lot in a fight against, you know, some of the higher class mutants. But she's also a very skilled fighter, so that along with her abilities would make her a formidable foe against most people. Number 5. Wallflower. Lori Collins, also known as Wallflower, is a mutant who gives very strong airborne-based pheromones, which can alter the mood of people around her. Originally, she couldn't really control this ability, but as time passed, she learned how to control it. Although it can be difficult for her to use it if she's not in the right state of mind. Number 4. Loa. Loa is a teenager who grew up in Hawaii and has the ability to pass through any solid object, but as soon as she does, the object gets destroyed. So she's kind of like Kitty Pryde in a way, except she has consequences every time she does. She also has markings all over her bodies because of her powers, but not to the point where if you saw her you would immediately think like, oh nope, she's a mutant, she has powers. Her powers can also really come in handy, but at the same time she really needs to be careful using it. The first time she did, she ended up killing a shark. So her powers can be lethal, but it would be hard to run at someone in a fight, just running at them and they would just jump out of the way. Number 3. Forge. Now Forge is a really interesting one. His mutant power is being able to invent and build mechanical devices. Now on the surface it would seem like that's just a skill that he picked up, but no, it's his power. See, it's not like someone being able to just go up and build something with, you know, relative ease. Forge has mentioned that he can see mechanical energy. So he's able to just go up, build, design, conceive, operate technology and weapons that, you know, would otherwise take someone years and years of research to accomplish. Whereas Forge can do that in a matter of minutes. Number 2. Domino. Domino has the power of being very, very lucky. Now, she is aware of it, but you can see how someone might not have been. Some people would just assume that they just were, you know, really lucky. Like getting a job even though, you know, you didn't have the right qualifications, passing a test without studying, winning the lottery, etc. Like all that stuff. But since Domino is aware of it, she uses it to her advantage. Now, it's not like bad things can't happen to her, but depending on the scenario, it can usually go her way, and since she's aware of it, she's gotten a lot better at controlling that ability. Number 1. Ice Cream. Oh man, okay, I had no idea this guy even existed before today. Ice Cream is a mutant who has the ability to turn into any type of ice cream. And no, I'm not joking. He debuted in 1983 and has never been seen again. I'm so sorry guys, but come on. He has to be number 1. I mean, the guy's power is being able to turn into any ice cream flavor imaginable. Like, how ridiculously weird and amazing is that? In his first and only appearance, Ice Cream witnessed the X-Men in action while watching them on TV. He became jealous of them because he thought their powers were a lot cooler and then they made his look stupid. So he decided to they needed to be eliminated. So he breaks into the X Mansion, hoping no one would notice a random pile of ice cream lurking around the house. Now, the day he broke in happened to be Kitty Pryde's birthday. Xavier hired a clown for the occasion, and when Ice Cream saw the clown interacting with the X-Men in the Danger Room, he decided that he wanted to eliminate him as well. But you know, it didn't work out. They trapped him in the Danger Room and lowered the temperature so that he turned into a frozen block of ice cream. Then they decorated him like a sundae. Like, no joke, they actually did that. You know, and then he was never seen again. I honestly really want to know what happened to him.
Number 10, Iceman. Bobby Drake made his first X-Men debut in X-Men issue 1. Now his powers are pretty obvious. I mean, even his name alone should tip you off. He can lower his external and internal body temperature because there are nerves that regulate body temperature, and they're found in a part of the brain called the hypothalamus. See, Bobby can override this nerve drastically. His mutation allows him to withstand sub-zero temperatures and turn into ice within seconds. He can fully control ice, snow, probably snow cones, realistically. He can freeze the moisture in the air, just like Frozone, and create anything that he imagines. He can also create cold clones of himself on a molecular level, so you won't even see him coming, but you'll definitely feel it. Number 9, ELIXIR. Josh Foley made his comic book debut in New Mutants Volume 2, Issue 5. Now he was detected by Cerebro, and his Omega power is actually quite helpful in this case. So he obtains an Omega class healing ability, and around M-Day he was actually considered a general threat, weirdly enough. See, ELIXIR is able to control the biological structure of his and others' bodies. I mean, down to the genetic level. He can produce biomolecular energy whenever he chooses, affecting any matter that he chooses to come into contact with. So if he uses his powers too much, he'll pass out and just remain in a coma. It takes a toll on him. His DNA reboots itself, which is pretty impressive. I mean, I get a bruise and it hangs out for like an entire week. What's going on there? He was able to regrow Prodigy's heart in New X-Men Volume 2, Issue 39, and he cured X-23 of the legacy virus, and Josh himself says that he can cure Sabretooth from the inversion effect. What a combo. This guy can also bring people back from the dead. You can't really beat that. Number 8, Legion. David Haller made his comic debut in New Mutants issue 26. He was a child of Xavier and Gabrielle Haller, who later became the Israel ambassador to the United Kingdom. So the parents, I mean, there's a lot of pressure there already. See, he was kind of an accident. It happens. The pair had an affair decades back, but Charles was unaware that she was pregnant when he left her. Now the child was of course born a mutant with telepathic and telekinetic abilities, but he also had the ability to cause destruction with just his mind. The old Charles gene coming into play. Scott Summers describes David as Omega level, and the reason he's named Legion, well, it comes from the biblical demon Legion, where a man was possessed by many evil spirits, because David has 3 different personalities. All the powers with all the personalities. That's a scary, you don't want that. You don't want to run into him. Number 7, Kid Omega. I mean, yeah, Omega is literally in his name, so we have to include Kid Omega. Meet Quintavious Quire. He made his first appearance in X-Men issue 134. He's been described as one of the most powerful telepaths next to Jean Grey, who may or may not be on this list later on. I'll never tell. But he was once a host of the Phoenix Force as well. He was one of Xavier's prized pupils until he put together the Omega Gang. He wasn't always a bad kid. It's just, you see, what happened was on his birthday, when he was still young, he received a call from his parents to say that, oh, you're adopted. Happy birthday. Awesome. And these kids are the hardest gang in town. They handle humans the way that they want, with violence, cool haircuts, and monologues, of course. Now he's been described as Omega level telepath and telekinetic and scion. Not bad for a kid. Number 6, Vulcan. He named himself after the Roman god of fire, so you already know that we're But Vulcan's real identity was that of Gabriel Summers. See, he was born after Cyclops and after Havoc. Well, not really born, he was surgically removed from his mother's body and then placed in an incubator accelerator, aged to be at his prime, and then sent to Earth to work for Devon Shikari. So a little bit different than the other guys. He escaped and was found by Moira McTaggart with no memories of who he is or where he came from, which is always good. But as a student, he was impressing Charles a lot, and all he wanted to do really was learn his abilities so he can help others. You can't beat that, come on, the guy, he's got a good heart. Sounds like the dream student. Now he can psionically manipulate energy however he wants. He can manipulate other mutant powers, and that's the scary part with Vulcan. He suppresses all of your superpowers. Emma Frost, Rachel Gray, and Xavier have all confirmed that after the events of M-Day, this alpha level mutant absorbed energies from the depowered mutants and then became an omega level one himself. Number 5, Storm. Aurora Monroe made her debut in Giant-Sized X-Men issue 1. She was recruited by Charles and joined the team to save other original students from Krakoa. Now, she was appointed leader after several years of hard work, and Storm has been referred to as a witch before because her powers to control the air and the elements, all that jazz. I mean, fair, she's kind of witch-like. Now, things go up a notch in X-Men issue 135 during the Dark Phoenix saga. Sebastian Shaw calls her a weather witch. Adds the word weather before, okay, it's a bit specific. See, it's not just storms in Earth that Aurora can control, even in space she can summon natural energy. Doesn't matter where you are, she'll find you. Number 4, Mr. M. Mr. M first appeared in District X issue 2. His powers came to be after an accident, like most of them. See, he accidentally turned a boy bullying his cousin inside out, and then he was stuck like that for 3 hours. That's the worst thing I can think of, I think. He didn't have lots of friends, I mean, obviously. The only ones close to him was Hannah Levy, who was not an Omega level mutant per se, but she did eat bugs. After M-Day, Mr. M himself was one of the few who kept his powers. Now those Omega level powers being, well, I mean, this guy can literally do it all. He can control machines, resurrect the dead, phase through objects, manipulate matter, telekinesis, telepathy, and much, much more. Number 3, Proteus. Kevin McTaggart is of course related to Moira McTaggart, as you could have guessed right then. Now he's the son of her and her husband Joseph. Now their marriage was awful. Joseph was a total piece of shit. He was abusive physically and mentally, so Moira got out of there. She didn't even tell Joseph that she was pregnant, and to be honest, that's probably for the best. Guy's the worst. So young Kevin and Moira lived together at her mutant research center off the coast of Scotland. Now Kevin, as he got older, manifested abilities, which basically was this uncontrollable need for power. See, he craved it, his body needed it, so Moira had to hide him. She kept him locked in a cell for years, only referred to as Mutant X, because she wanted to keep him safe, and also others, you know? So one day while Magneto was fighting the X-Men, his cell was damaged and he got out. Now since the isosteric energy in his cell was no longer holding him back, Kevin defeated Polaris, he defeated Multiple Man, and even escaped the Phoenix. He survived the Phoenix, that's crazy. Now his body was starting to burn out like Moira tried to prevent all this time. So the only solution here was that he had to possess another human host, and then another one after that, and so on and dan forth. Now he renames himself Proteus, with his imagination being the only thing that limits his powers. He's made of psionic energy, and he too can warp reality. Every time he possesses a new host, he gets stronger and stronger until eventually the host burns out and then he has to possess another poor soul. What a horrible, vicious cycle. Number 2, Franklin Richards. I was the impossible boy who could dream the future. I was a god, born to be with the mutants, but also born into the Fantastic Four, which means I have twice as many enemies. Damn, you could say that again, Franklin. He was born in New York City. Franklin Richards is the son, of course, of Reed Richards and Sue Storm, and he is quoted from Galactus himself as the most powerful mutant ever. That is quite, put that on a resume, that sounds great. He's a mutant beyond Omega power, in fact. See, Franklin was a member of Gen X, and he's also a future X-Men member in the Ultimate X-Men comics. Now, some of his powers include vast reality warping, psionic powers, he has control over the universe, so that's cool, must be nice. Precognitive powers are also helpful even when he's dreaming. His dreams will tip him off on the future and what's going to happen in them. Now, the only dreams I have are the ones where my teeth are falling out, or I can't run and my legs are made of rubber or something like that, you know? It's not as fun. He can resurrect the dead, he can time travel, he can teleport, astral project, and he can duplicate planets and or people. So if your eyebrows aren't raised yet, that's fine, I can continue. At a young age, he was able to create a pocket universe. And in Fantastic Four issue number 604, this kid took not only 1, but 3 Celestials. One of them, he laid them out with just 1 punch. So impressive. And finally, number 1, Jean Grey. Of course, we have to end on Jean Grey. She is an Omega level mutant born with telekinetic and telepathic powers. She was one of the OG members of the X-Men. Now, seeing the potential in Jean's strength, the Phoenix Force attached itself to her while she was in space with the Fantastic Four. It was drawn to her natural power. See, Xavier himself felt like he had to hide her true powers from her when she was just a child. He locked some of her abilities away in her mind. So the Phoenix Force was like, I smell something, what is that? What's hiding somewhere? So this dark cosmic force started to change her, and she didn't just get more powerful, she ended up becoming, well, low-key, she kind of became a villain. She ended up destroying an entire solar system that killed like, I don't know, billions of people, and then she took her own life in order to keep the universe safe. Now, a few years later, it was actually revealed that it wasn't the Jean Grey that had died, just the Phoenix as a separate entity, which is, that's better, that's definitely better.